by John Piassek. I'm Frank Vespi. We're for the Racing Biz, theracingbiz.com, and we're here to talk about John's late pick five on Maryland Million Day. John, the Maryland Million, the pick five is, and in Maryland is one of the most better friendly bets out there. I think 12% takeout, a 50-cent unit. That means you can play this bet. It's low takeout. Because the unit is 50 cents, you could kind of spread out a little bit and still have an affordable ticket. And it's not a jackpot wager. It actually
Yeah.
pays if you win.
Right. And I've always told out of town folks who are like, oh, I'd rather play the pick four and the pick five. The pick four takeout is twice as much as the pick five takeout. And all you got to do is pick one more winner, and the payoffs are generally much, much more. And of course, because it's Maryland Million Day and the fields are huge, it should be a very juicy pool. Really, no better day than this one to play a late pick five.
Yeah, no, and the pool should be good. Wagering usually robust on Maryland Million Day. So a lot of good stuff. We're going to put up your ticket right now, and we're going to, in a minute, go through its kind of race by race. But I wanted to ask you, as I look at your ticket, the thing that jumped out to me most of all is in the fourth leg, which is the Maryland Million Classic. Now, that's a race where the line maker has made seven horses 6-1 or less. So what he's saying is this race is inscrutable. You seem to find it scrutable. You only go too deep there and you spread out around it. Talk about not the handicapping of it, but sort of the thought process. Apparently, is it that you think this race is more clear cut than others may?
I think it's somewhat clear cut. I do like most of the time a decent amount, but it's a two-part thought process. One is in a pick five, at a certain point, you have to draw a line in every race because there are a lot of sequences with races where it's like, boy, I think 5 or 6 horses could win each race, but you can't use 5 or 6 horses in all of them. Otherwise, you'll be spending a lot of money. I think you have to draw the line somewhere. I picked this race 4, 3, 8, 10, as you might have seen in our Maryland Million Classic preview, and I'm a lot higher on the 3 and the 4 than I am on the 8 or the 10. So I thought that was a good place to draw that line. And second of all, everybody and their brother knows this is a wide open race. It's no secret. It's been talked about a lot. Morning line is self-evident. As such, pretty much everybody playing the pick five is going to spread in this race. And as such, they won't have as much opportunity to spread in other legs, and that could cost them. I'd rather go a little bit narrower here and then spread out in other races, give myself the opportunity to use horses in those races that other folks might not have a budget for, hopefully knock a lot of tickets out and get an even juicier payoff.
Well, and that's an important handicapping tip right there, John. You know, you in the end you want to zig when the betting public zags. That's how you make money. So that is the point. So, all right, John Piassek, let us dive in here to this pick five. Race 8, we're going to put up here. It's a Maryland Million Sprint. This is a race we have the defending champ is back, and the last 2 winners of the Maryland Million Nursery. You're going to go 2-3 in here.
I did pick 2, 3. My top choice in this race is number 2, Celtic Contender, a son of Northview's Irish War Cry, a homebred. For Fred Lewis, Hammy Smith is a trainer. Victor Carrasco up. This one has shown a lot of promise over the course of the year. Really, his only bad races in recent times came going 2 turns. He did nothing in the private terms, nothing in the Tessio, but since then he's run much, much better. His last race really caught my eye. It was a Maryland restricted allowance race back on September 21st. Sat just off the pace, kicked away very nicely. Linkos gave him a little bit of a challenge on the inside. However, Celtic Contender quickly shook him off, won by 3 lengths while driving away late, and ran a very solid prisoner figure of 93. In fact, he's run in the 90s in each of his last 4 starts on dirt, and he's also proven himself without Lasix. His first 2 starts without Lasix, one might have been a little bit, I don't know how he'll do without Lasix, but he did cross the wire first without it in the start in Ascra, got disqualified from that race, but did cross wire first, and then ran a game 3rd in the concern stakes against Open Company without Lasix. So I'm not concerned about that at all. He's in great form, should get a great trip just off the pace, and is a absolute must use on any ticket. Number three, Sevens 11, who talked about a little bit, a Cottonwood stable homebred by the late Bandbox. Angel Cruz has the mount on him. I was very high on this horse towards the end of last year and at the start of this year. He came in second twice to Breeders' Cup bound post time. However, missed some time in the spring and early summer. Didn't do too much in his first two starts off the layoff, but did bounce back nicely. Two starts back on September 7th in a top third level, a allowance optional claiming race. Came from just off the pace, wore down, stakes placed Hurricane J, and ran a big Bristol figure of 97. Took a swing in the Vosburg Stakes last time out at Aqueduct over and off track. Didn't do much there. Now gets back to a track he loves, finds easier company. I think he's primed for a bounce back effort.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, John, if Sevens 11 runs to the better version of Sevens 11, he probably wins here. And I think one of the things that's interesting about him is, he ran a couple not, kind of off color races to start the year here, had changed barns from Carlos Mencia to Nesville Bailon. Bailon put blinkers on him and then he peeled them off and then he ran his good race again. The Vosburg, not so much, but that might have just been tougher company. I think the removal of the blinkers may be an important element here. So you're going 2-3 in the Maryland Million Sprint. Now we turn to the Maryland Million Turf Sprint, and I think this is another kind of interesting handicapping decision you've made here. This race appears to kind of run through two horses. You're using one of them, but not the one who's going to be the big favorite. That's Witty, is the one you're leaving off the ticket.
I think in a race like this, in which there's two dominant horses, in this case, Witty and my top pick, When I Get to Heaven, you have three options. You can single Witty and not use When I Get to Heaven.
Which
Single
a lot of
When I
people
Get
will do.
Absolutely. You can single When I Get to Heaven and not use Witty. Or C, don't use either one of them, spread out and try to beat them. Problem with option three is that if you spread out here, it leaves you less room to maneuver the rest of the way. I don't think it's quite worth it. With the caveat that I did try to beat Witty in last year's Maryland Million Turf Sprint, and it didn't work out there either. He does have a bit of a problem finishing the job. He had a string of second place finishes this year. Granted, most of those were against better company, but still, he probably should have won some of those races. Just got up to win a King Leatherberry in his last start on this track on April 20th. Then did absolutely nothing at Kentucky Downs last time out. I know it's kind of a funky track, but I was expecting a little bit better than a 24 length defeat. I think at his likely price, there's going to be a solid favorite he's worth a shot against. So I do lean towards number three, When I Get to Heaven. Bred by Larry Johnson, by Street Magician, now trained by Nolan Ramsey and owned by Ken Ramsey. He joined Nolan's barn in the spring and really has not run a bad race for Nolan. He ran very well in his local debut back on June 7th, won by 2.5 lengths, then ran a very nice race in the Ben's Cat 2 starts back on July 14th. As you can see, he fought hard against Tidewater, a very nice local sprinter, got up to win by a neck against a field that's not dissimilar to the one he'll see here today. He ran a 92 that day, just missed his career top first night mark. Ran a career best 95 last time out at Colonial Downs, won a game second to Determined Kingdom, who came back to run well against Stakes Company at Aqueduct.
Against Graded Stakes Company, yeah.
That's correct. He's in improving form. He has good tactical speed. I think he's a very good alternative to Witty. And if Witty doesn't quite run his best race, When I Get to Heaven is head and shoulders above everyone else. And as you said, because a lot of tickets are going to single Witty, if Witty loses, that's going to eliminate a lot of the pool and drive a potential payoff up.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And the thing with Witty's terrific, right? And if he runs his best race, he's going to be a handful. But his running style, he is a closing sprinter. And in turf sprints with big fields, that can be tough because it leaves you at the mercy of the trip. And, sometimes the trip doesn't work out. Sometimes you close nicely, but you get blocked or you got to wait a minute. And I think you make a really good point here that When I Get to Heaven is good enough to beat Witty. if Whitty doesn't have his best, or if Whitty encounters trouble that sort of undermines him. So you're going single there in that leg. That's the second leg of this pick five. Now on to the third leg, Maryland Million Distaff. Uh, and you're going wide here with five of them. This field includes two horses, the 8 and the 9, Miss Harriet and Sheila's War Cloud, who were 1-2 in last year's Maryland Million Lassie. So that should be fun to see them reconvene, and both of them are on your ticket.
Yes, I think both of them are very live. My top choice is Miss Harriet, a homebred for David Baxter's Narrowly Farm. Forrest Boyce gets the call. She has ridden this one in her last 3 starts. Miss Harriet was in good form on this track at the start of the year, won a first level allowance going away, then won the Wide Country Stakes in gate to wire style. And after that race, I remember saying, there's really not a lot of great spots for her on the calendar after her Wide Country. So she'll probably be in a lot of spots where she's in over her head, won't run that well. It'll kind of cloud up her form. But if she can keep her form going into the fall, I'm sure David and Brandon McFarlane, her trainer, have this race circled on their calendar, even back then. And that's what happened. She's run very well in her last 2 starts. Won the Miss Disco in gate to wire style. They got a class test last time out on September 27th in a tough third level allowance optional claiming race. First try against older horses. Got challenged by Ned Allard's good sprinter Begin, but kicked away. Won by almost 4 lengths. Beat Bella Bettina, a very nice local mare who's on the also eligible list for this race. Also beat Matitude, who's in this field. Ran a very nice prisoner figure of 88 that day, just missing her career top of 90. She loves this track. She's 5-7 on it. Has a lot of speed in a race with a lot of speed. However, she has the best early pace figures in the field, and I think if anyone is going to get a loose early lead, it's going to be her. Number 9, Sheila's War Cloud, by Made from Lucky. This here, by the way, is by Blofeld. Sheila's War Cloud by Made from Lucky. Justin Nixon, the co-breeder, Dr. Megan Kofood, owner and a trainer. John Visanio has the mount on this one. I was also pretty high on her at the start of this year. However, she missed a lot of time, came back in late August, ran a nice second first off a 7-month break at Colonial Downs, then really broke through second off the layoff last time out against first level Maryland Restricted Allowance Company. Came from well off the pace that day, won by 3 going away, ran a big figure. Now in a big field like this one, she just run the risk of getting caught in traffic, as we talked about with Whitty a little while ago. However, as I also said, there is a lot of speed. If Miss Harriet can't quite clear and ends up getting entangled in a duel, I think Sheila's War Cloud is going to take full advantage. So those are
your top 2?
Top 2 in this sequence. As you said, I'm using 3 others in here. Number 1, Malibu Moonshine, the 2022 Maryland bred champion 2-year-old filly, was entered in the last year that year, was scratched, however, did win 2 stakes later in the year. Bred by Dr. Parker, by Anchor and Hope's Bourbon's Courage. She was in pretty bad form mid-year, did win the Geisha Stakes from way off the pace, started her campaign, ran 2 clunkers in a row in New York, got a little bit of time off, however, won going away against open claimers at Saratoga back on August 29th. Ran a career best figure of 89 that day. She's always had a lot of ability, however, hasn't quite been able to put it all together. She's been very up and down. However, her up is very strong, and I think she has to be used at hopefully a good number. Number 2, Malibu Beauty, very hard-knocking mare, a 12-time winner, 5-time winner on this track, a homebred for ZWP and non-stop stable. I'm not quite sure if she wants 7 furlongs, might want a little more ground. However, she's still in very good form, won 2 stakes on this track over the summer, and should get a nice trip just off the pace on the inside. And we'll also throw in number 13, Brazina, by the king of Maryland Stallions, Northview's Great Notion, owned and trained by Jamie Ness. This one has won 2 in a row on the lead, including a nice win at Parks, which broke slowly, had to be rushed up, still one going away. She's in improving form. As long as she doesn't lose too much ground on the far outside post, I think she has a good shot.
All right, on to the 11th, the Maryland Million Classic. We touched on this earlier, wide open field, but you're going to narrow your perspective here. You're going to go with the 3 Market Maven, who was first past the post in this event last year, but then disqualified to second for bumping Ain't the Beer Cold, and the number 4 Mosler Time.
Yes, I did narrow it down to those two. Number 3 Market Maven has nice closing speed, ran really well in 2 two-turn starts at Parks. Recently came in third in a tough third level allowance optional claiming race back in mid-July. That was a nice third in the Storm Cat while saving ground. Has a decent amount of speed in here. He has great late pace figures. Think he'll be hanging around till the end. He's a Pennsylvania-bred homebred for Gregory Gordon before Mosler Time, as the name would suggest, by Mosler, bred by Carl Lanier. He's lightly raced. He's had a bit of strange circumstances in his career that have somewhat clouded his form. However, at his best, he is very good. He ran huge last time out against Open First Level Allowance Company back on September 7th, sat just off the pace that day and powered away to win by almost 7 lengths. Ran a career top risen figure that day of 95. It was the second time in his career he's run in the 90s. Going 2 turns, he should get a nice trip. Jamie Rodriguez keeps the mount. He's my top choice in this year's Classic.
All right, 3 and 4 and that. And finally, on to the final leg. This is one of the starter handicaps, 12-5 starters, 3 and up, 7/8 of a mile. And this is another one, John, where you spread you cast your net widely.
Yes. Generally when I get the last leg of a pick 5, I'm usually kind of like, I'm almost there. Let me just spread out. That way I get like 30 minutes of being like, well, as long as it's any semi-logical outcome, I'll still be alive. I went 6 deep in here. 3 Irish Warlock by Irish Warcry, bred by James Thames. We had a nice race against Virginia Restricted Allowance Company on Virginia Derby Eve. He's run at least an 85 in 3 straight starts. He's coming in here in good form. Number 8 Must Be Love, bred by Charles and Cynthia McGinnis, co-owned by Jamie Ness. And a nice second to go in 2 turns at Delaware Park last time. He has good tactical speed. Jamie Rodriguez, who of course is Jamie Ness's go-to rider, gets the mount on him. Number 9 Alvy, bred by the Elkstone Group. Ronaldo Boca Chica, the king of Charlestown, comes in for this one. It's not easy to close at Charlestown. However, this guy did that last time out against First Level Company on September 14th, came from well off the pace and won going away. He was a nice form at Penn National prior to that. In fact, he's won 3 out of his last 4 starts. Number 10, Inside Stunt, bred by John Davison. Angel Diaz comes in from Thistledown for this mount. I don't see too many Thistledown shippers come in here.
Do not.
No, his people must think he's live in order to take a shot in this race. He won first off a 3-month layoff on that track last time out, showing a lot of heart on the front. Number 11, Big Daddy's Boy, bred by Gina and Jerry Robbs, No Guts, No Glory Farm, claimed away from them last time out by Gina Perry for 12.5. This one has tremendous closing speed. He won at 5.5 furlongs in the last few jumps last time out. I think he'll like the extra distance. He's rounding into his career best form as well after a bit of a slow start to the season. And we'll round things out with number 13, Red Paisley on almost the extreme outside, bred by Thomas Teal, recently claimed by Joanne Schenkel. Jevion Toledo gets aboard for the first time. This one has gone off as the favorite in 6 of his last 8 starts. That streak is probably going to keep up here. Beat a similar field last time out from just off the pace. Showed a good dimension in that race because usually he had been on the front end. However, he showed that he can settle and still win, and that might be a better move in this race rather than trying to clear from post 13. So I think it'll be one of those 6, and then from there, it might not be a champagne dinner, but it'll be a nice dinner.
Well, yeah, and I think if you beat Whitty, that's going to help quite a bit. I mean, I think you're right on that a lot of people are probably just going to zero in on Whitty. And so beating him may do you, even though When I Get to Heaven's going to be fairly short as well, it may do you more good than you'd think based on the odds, in theory. All right, John Piassek, a pick 5, late pick 5.